The clock has struck 11:02 Pacific. Thanks everyone for joining today. I'm sure folks will continue to stream in digitally as we get going, but we wanted to go ahead and dive right in. My name is Sean Wales. I'm the Modern Work Specialist for state and local government in the state of California. From a Microsoft Viva perspective, I also cover Viva at the national level for our team. I'm here today with Cyclotron, one of our esteemed modern work partners, and one of our partners with deep expertise in Viva. Cyclotron will be doing most of the talking today about the Viva experience and how they can help you, our government customers. But before that, I just want to take a quick moment to tell the Viva story for everyone who may or may not have heard it. We're a big believer in starting with why here at Microsoft, and I think that to understand what Viva is, it's really important to hear how it came to be. The short answer to why Microsoft created Viva is that the pandemic changed what it means to be an employee. It changed employee experience, and during that time, we went out and we're doing a bunch of research about work and the state of modern work and kind of what gets people motivated to do their jobs. And, we all went through the experience of being in a hybrid workplace and how that can be beneficial. But additionally, it creates a new set of challenges, right? We are seeing increased burnout. There's this phenomenon which Satya has coined called the productivity paradox, right? Where managers are succumbing to productivity paranoia, where they're concerned about whether or not their employees are working, given that they can't connect to them. Similarly, employees, are concerned about how well their impact is being represented, given that they can't be in person. So it leads to this thing called productivity theater, where folks kind of overperform instead of just representing their impact. Additionally, there's just the loss of the water cooler, right? There's reduced connection with teammates and managers, right? Being able to speak with somebody on the margins, and sometimes those conversations are really where there's a lot of value in. And then, of course, not being able to be in an office, disconnects you a lot of times from where knowledge is in your digital systems and where your training materials might be. The ability to kind of get connected and engaged to your organization's digital AQ, which is a challenge. And so Microsoft looked at all these things and said, wow, there's a lot of different, new realities of work that need to be addressed. And we, as the predominant collaboration modern work company, felt like we had the ingredients to create a new category, a new employee experience platform. And so that's what Viva is. Next slide, Kate. And so, it's not just, I know that the term employee experience platform can seem, maybe a little bit vague or ambiguous or fun or fuzzy, but really we are responding to real market research that we've done. We have a thesis that, in fact, people are somewhat less engaged than they were at work before the pandemic. And the cost of that is that folks aren't staying in role as much, or they're not as performant in role. And conversely, the good news is that folks who are able to stay engaged, they stick around. And in a very competitive workforce, retention is a very important thing for government customers, especially. Any tooling that can help increase or boost retention is going to be valuable. Not just because having folks stick around itself is valuable, but because highly engaged, persistent employees will lead to greater productivity and profitability. So while we talk about employee experience, or return on experience, we do really believe that there's a solid return on investment for those who choose to use Viva. So with that said, let's take a little bit about the what and hear what Viva is. The suite is a series of products, right? They all have the same theme, the same mission, which is to improve employee experience. But really, we are up to now 8 modules, maybe 9 or 10 if you've been out looking at our recent Ignite announcements. And you can see that each one is dedicated to solving a particular aspect of employee experience. We're going to be talking mostly today about Viva Connections, but before we dive in there, I did want to just spend a brief moment on I saw a chat there that said that my audio might not be coming through. Can I get a thumbs up or a affirmation that I'm still being heard?
Yep, we can hear you.
Look at that. Look at all those thumbs. Look at that. Good job, everybody. Control Shift K. Best keyboard shortcut there is. So yeah, so with that said, I'm just going to just verbally talk about what each of these things is for a moment. If you want to go deeper on any of these, you'll be reaching out to Cyclotron or your Microsoft Modern Work specialist, but just in a word, right, to understand what each one's about. Viva Connections is our digital HQ. It's a way to take your SharePoint Modern site and surface it directly into Teams. The idea there is that the newspaper wasn't being delivered all the way to the front porch. It was down on the street somewhere. So we want to make sure that that folks are getting connected to their main SharePoint homes for their organizations within Teams. Viva Engage, I think of this as a Reddit type community, or if you use Yammer, Yammer type capabilities coming into Teams, allowing folks to engage with each other in a highly visible way across the organization, Q&As, understanding different things that are having a forum for discussion, right, within your organization that happens from within Teams. Similarly, Viva Amplify is a way to do internal communications, right? So a lot of times an email out to your organization doesn't quite work as effective as it used to, given that we're all drowning in email. So Viva Amplify is a mechanism by which you can manage, distribute internal comms to your team. Viva Insights, I think of it as the anchor of the Viva platform. Employee experience is backboned by wellness and productivity. We previously had products called My Analytics or Workplace Analytics. Those are the products that have become Viva Insights, as well as some other capabilities, allowing folks to have access to a meditation app within their team's environment, helping folks understand, whether or not they're using the time that they want to focus, giving them nudges and tools to shorten meetings and send things after hours and things like that. So there's a lot in Viva Insights, too much to fit into 30 seconds, but I do think it's sort of kind of the anchor, the main one. If you ask me, others would maybe disagree, but if you ask me what the main one is, I would say it's Insights. Viva Pulse is a mechanism for feedback, for leaders and managers to be able to collect feedback from their organization in a very quick, easy way. Again, using the concept that if folks are in Teams, they're more likely to use a tool or platform that's asking for their feedback. Viva Goals is an OKR tool, objective and key results. If you're not familiar with that term, it's basically a methodology that helps people, teams, organizations stay aligned to their mission and their key goals, right? So again, the idea is that if you're going to be using an OKR tool, we want that to be within the flow of work. And so that happens within Viva Goals within Teams. Viva Topics is, I think of it as Wikipedia as a service. It's basically a AI ML agent that we release into a SharePoint environment and helpfully aggregates different topics from disparate systems, folders, areas of SharePoint. The product itself can also ingest third-party data to smartly identify topics of note to your organization. And the reason that's valuable is that a lot of times we spend time wasted looking for things within SharePoint. And so this idea is that without having to hire a bunch of knowledge managers, we can improve the curation of the topics and projects that are key to your organization and bring those topics in a dynamic way into your Teams chat, into your channels, into your email, and even into your Word documents. And then lastly, Viva Learning. While I have a broad audience here, I'd like to emphasize that Viva Learning is not an LMS system. It is a way to surface your learning system, your LMS system, into Teams, right? So the idea there is that folks oftentimes don't take the 2 clicks to go outside of Teams to do their trainings, or bringing your training platform, whether or not that's files in your SharePoint, LinkedIn Learning, or something that's a third-party tool like Skillsoft. Bringing that and surfacing it into Teams. And so the common thread of all those things really is that we are taking the Microsoft Graph API under the hood and taking a lot of the existing capabilities that Microsoft already used and rewiring them in such a way that the employee experience is improved. And so our hope is that over time, folks will come to see these things not as a number of different products, but as one employee experience platform. And the very best thing that you can do if you're a government employee or government customer is to start with Viva Connections, right? So that's where Cyclotron is going to be talking about today. It is kind of the easiest win, most immediately available Viva Connections module that you can do. So we're going to be starting with that today, and Cyclotron folks are going to be talking about how they can help with Viva Connections, as well as some of the exploration of the other modules on the screen. So thanks everyone for listening again. I'm Sean Wales. You can reach out to me or your relevant Microsoft Modern Work rep if there's any further questions about this. We'll be putting a form at the end of this meeting for you to ask further questions, but please do keep asking questions in the chat. We'll have some time at the end to address those. So I'll go ahead and hand it off to Kate. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Hi, everybody. I am Kate Lomax. I'm a change leadership partner here at Cyclotron. And of course, I specialize in this wonderful employee engagement tool called Viva. Now, Cyclotron is a Microsoft partner. We do a lot of things. We are #1 in a lot of the Teams platforms in implementation as well as adoption. We're also one of the highest partners within Viva. And as you can see, we have quite a few different clients that you may recognize on here as well. Cyclotron likes to really not only do the implementation pieces, but also help you with the system in general, from adoption, training, communications, and just ensuring that you understand what you have and how to manage it. So we're actually here to help you. So let's talk about what is available to you in Viva, which that is, of course, Viva Connections. Now, Viva Connections is that intranet platform. It is basically a SharePoint modern communication site that you are adding additional functionality to make it more employee engagement. Now, what Viva Connections really strives in is that culture and communications. They want to make sure that you keep everyone connected, making sure that you're having these meaningful connections, the communication pieces available to them right where they work every single day. We also want to make sure that it's easy for people to contribute, make sure that people are able to share feedback, have that kind of culture of inclusion, and then also making sure that you're uniting and inspiring your organization. We want an easy place for your organization to get to see their vision, mission, and priorities that are available to them. So let's get into Viva Connections. Now, first off, Viva Connections is within Teams. It's where you're working every single day. Now, when you first come in, you can come into the Viva Connections. You see an icon and a naming convention. You can change those. You can have it based on what your intranet is called and have it a little bit more customized to you. When you first come into Teams, when you first click on it, it brings you to the Viva Connections site. When you click on it again, it brings this global navigation aspect available to them. This has quick links available that they can get to easily. It also has sites that they're a part of, and then news features that are available to them, things that are relevant to them. Now, it is within Teams. You can deploy different policies that forces this on their Teams rail, even forces it up to the top. So you can make it easy for your employees to get to this and not have to add this themselves. Now, as you can see, this is a SharePoint modern communication site. Now, adding that Viva Connections gives it into Teams, but it also gives a few different things that you can see, like a dashboard. Now you have on a lot of times when people are setting this up, you have on the left side, it's more of the we communication. It's the about the organization. But then on the right side, you have more of the personalized content, the me part. So as you can see, if you have with the dashboard of Viva Connections, you can do different integrations. And so you can integrate things like your time off system, your benefits, your payroll, whatever it might be, you can. If they have APIs available, we can utilize that into adaptive cards within your site. So people can come in here, they can report their time off, say that they're sick that day, or even if they have a wellness day, paid time off, they can submit it right within Viva Connections, which will then update your third-party system. You can do different things like having FAQs. You can see the holidays that are available to them. They can also have like payslip integration. They can see how they got paid, their payslips month over month or week over week. And you can put different Teams apps like a Teams calendar and see, who's on vacation, who's out sick, or what exactly they are doing. You have lots of different aspects within here that you can pull, whether it be just a link or actual rich information that is coming face up to them. Now, as I said, this is a Viva Connections site, but it is SharePoint communications on a modern tenant. So you have your typical SharePoint with the navigational aspects. You also have your company news. You can embed videos, images, company events, quick resources. All of those things are right at your fingertips within this site. It makes it easy for you. And as you can see, this is within Teams, but it's also on a browser aspect. So you can pull this up within a browser and make it their first thing that they see when they go to the internet. So this makes it easy for them to get in here and see it no matter where they are. The news feature allows for you to do different audience targeting. And you can also do audience targeting within your dashboard and your global navigation. So if you would like for your IT department or HR department to see an extra layer here, or even managers, you can do an audience targeting that says a manager tab that only managers can be able to see. This includes the dashboard cards. So if you wanted a manager card just for managers, you can have that pop up where only when the manager comes to their site can see that. There's lots of different aspects on audience targeting that can be embedded within here that really helps make this content a little bit more richer and engaged for your employees. Now, as I said, this is on Teams, it's on the browser, but it's also on mobile. So we can bring up the mobile site for you. So when you first go to mobile, what you're going to do is you're going to download the Teams app. And within the Teams app, you have an icon down here that has for Viva Connections. It'll have your specific logo and naming convention that you want. There's 3 layers to the Viva Connections. First is the feed. With the feed within here, it has everything that you have on your Viva Connections site. And the news articles and everything that you put on the site dynamically transfers into a mobile view. So there's no zooming in or zooming out or trying to get that perfect view of it. It automatically makes it easy for you to see the content, to engage with the content, to read, and even come down and see comments and replies or likes, whatever it might be. So it makes this easy for you. The second area within the mobile of Viva Connections is the dashboard. So everything that we had on the dashboard on the browser is also available on mobile. So being able to maybe fill out a form for a daily health check, you can do that right from your mobile device. You can also do things like I was talking about with time off systems, with the payroll, or even your team's calendar. So if somebody wakes up in the morning and they're sick and they really just can't get out of bed, they can easily come to mobile and be able to put in, hey, I'm sick today. I can see how many sick days I have and pull that out into and put it into the system. So I just saw a question of, can we have different Viva Connections pages for each department? So you can have different Viva themes and different page layouts and different rich content for your departments. So if you would like to have different of these adaptive cards or even your top navigation, you can put that within there and you can have several different sites available for each department. Now, as I said, Viva Connections is everywhere. It's within mobile, it's within your tablet, and it's within your desktop. Now, those different audience targeting aspects that you have or the different department layers that you have will be the same for each one. So if you have it on your mobile device, you're going to see the same type of experience as you do within your desktop. It's just going to be easier for you to view, or more dynamic for you on your mobile than trying to, scroll in or whatever it might be. But this is Viva Connections. Lots of different aspects to it, and it is very engaging for your employees. But let's talk about our journey into Viva Connections. We're going to have Logu from our technical team discuss this portion.
Awesome. Thanks, Kate. Hello, everyone. So everyone saw the description about Microsoft Viva, and then also Sean actually spoke about why we actually created it, right? I wanted to expand a little bit more on this, right? So today, what are we trying to accomplish with Viva, right? It's like today in our real lives, we have various different collaboration experiences. We use lots of different tools to actually get our news information. It could be like news sites, it could be like Wall Street Journal or like New York Times, where you go and then get your personalized news these days, right? And then you also use Facebook and Instagram for your social interactions, and then Twitter for all of your, crowdsourced information. And then we've actually created a very efficient system, like using hashtags. You can actually go and then talk about hashtag Thanksgiving recipes, and then hashtag US elections. And then all of that content is like aggregated for you, and then it's actually presented specifically for you, right? Now, how do we bring that, all of these experiences? We are so used to these style of content and consuming this content. Now, how can we bring that into the enterprise, right? And the answer is Viva, right? So combining with Viva Connections and then Viva Topics is that artificial intelligence engine that basically allows you to create that, Twitter-like hashtag knowledge management system within your organization, right? And then Viva Learning brings all of your content. It could be videos, it could be like various different learning management solutions that you want to integrate, everything in one single space, right? So that's also the vision from Microsoft, right? We're bringing Microsoft Teams as this single modern work operating system, and then using Teams as the single abstraction layer for everything within your enterprise, right? And when we are actually doing this, it's not just Viva that we are actually talking about. We can also connect to various different third-party providers. So irrespective of the third-party softwares that you might be like using, for example, it could be ServiceNow, Workday, Jira, or anything that you're actually using today can be integrated with Viva. So Microsoft is working firsthand with all of these partners, and it doesn't end there. You can also extend Viva using Microsoft 365 platform services, including Power Platform and then Azure Cloud Services, right? And you can also bring in your ERP systems, your content management systems, apps that you have built homegrown, or like CRM, and plug everything into one single layer here. And the idea is like, let's say me as an employee, I will always come to one single place to actually, talk to my colleagues, access my files, and then also do my real work. And maybe I want to apply for PTO. Maybe I want to consume my pay stub, and maybe I want to submit my expense reimbursement. So for all of these things, I will actually come to one single space, and there is no context switches for me. And and we were actually building some stickiness into this entire platform itself, right? So that's actually the advantage of using Microsoft Viva on top of Microsoft Teams as well, right? So that's kind of the vision, right? Next slide, Kate. And in order to do this, right, so we are trying to build a gateway for your entire organization. And for this, we need to have this expert blend of subject matter experts, right? So it's like we want to craft this experience specific to your departments and organizations within the government here, right? So for this, we usually want to plug in people from business, tech, and also adoption. This is kind of very critical to actually think through, hey, what should be the experience? Should we boil the ocean here? Or maybe should we actually start with what we call as the basic seeded version of the Viva connections? So there are lots of these things, what we call as a seeded version, which means it's free, which also means it is included in your licenses already. So you don't have to pay anything extra for the licenses. You can just start using Microsoft Viva today, right? If you already have the enterprise plans and the licenses are enabled, right? So we actually onboard people, including UI UX architects, adoption architects, and we work very closely with your HR and internal communications team on what is the best strategy, what are the tools that you're actually using. Are you using like a point-based solutions for your email communication? And then how can we actually change that and then introduce that audience targeting? So all of these things needs to be discussed. And then we will also supplement that with technology, so including Microsoft 365 architects and full stack engineers, right? And the most important part here would be the adoption, right? If you really think about it, it's like there's going to be lots of questions, different style of people, early adopters, tech savvy. So for all of them, we can actually find out what's the change impact here, and then how we can actually train them to actually use the system. And then we want to create the system much more easy and intuitive for them as well, right? So adoption would provide that constant feedback from the pilot groups, and then we can always fine tune that experience, right? Yeah, next page. Okay. All right. So how do we build this realistically, right? It's like, okay, we spoke about what's the advantage here, and then it's like, what are the different modules? But if you have to kickstart this today, what you can actually do. As I said, most of you would have been already licensed for Viva connections, and we are seeing lots of our customers, lots of government organizations actually kickstarting their engagement here, at least like a pilot, right? It's like that they want to actually build for like 30 people, 50 people here, and then how we can also do like a phased rollout if required. So in order to do that, we always recommend what we call as this information architecture, right? So building what we call as a traditional intranet, and then we also want to define what is your extranet. Do you want to allow partners and volunteers and others outside your organization to actually access content, and what would be the security perimeter? What would be the best way to actually provide access to all of these people, right? That security model and permissions and structure, and also the site navigation and site structure. All of these things needs to be discussed. And then we'll also use a UI architect to actually visualize and then see what could be the end state, right? And then at this time, we will also form the adoption and pilot groups as well, right? And once we actually do that, we would actually jump into what we call as the global navigation, though it is very trivial, very, very important. We want to provide ease of navigation for most of the users, and we don't want them to, go and then get into that navigation web. Instead, we wanted to keep it very simple. There are multiple different options. We can definitely talk through those kind of options. And then now the most important 1.3 is that vivifying your SharePoint, right? So lots of you might already have your investments in SharePoint, right? It could be it might be sitting in your on-premise SharePoint environment, or you might be on the SharePoint online. So we might want to see how we can actually take advantage of that. So one good news is that we don't have to throw away everything or anything on the Microsoft investments, including SharePoint and then workflows. We can take that and then reuse pretty much everything. And then at the same time, we can also modernize your SharePoint and then intranet and then move that into that modern world, right? So this is where we'll talk about how we can actually aggregate your relevant news, how we can actually structure your company communications, and then those little dashboards that Kate actually showed you, right? So those dashboards are getting very popular among our customers, right? Because they're not quick links. We are not allowing users to branch off into a separate tab and then where they have to provide the username and password and then submit a PTO. Instead, we are integrating with your system and bringing that experience right in the center of the page, right? So that's very critical, and that's very popular as well. And we also don't want to build like 10 of those dashboards on day one. Well, we always recommend building foundations. So maybe you want to start with one or two and then tease people and then see what is the response and then build over a period of time, right? So that's point number 3. And then the fourth one is what we call as the audience targeting. One of the questions that also came in, like, it's like, hey, can we have like different departments and pages? Yes, of course, we can definitely do that. But we can also provide a different experience. For example, if people are coming from different departments to this homepage experience, now you can say for sales or like HR or like somebody handling volunteers, based on who they are, Viva Connections understands their job profile, and then it also understands where they are working. So based on their location and then their job profile, we can completely curate a different set of news articles, different set of highlighted content, and then we can also figure out what is common for all of these different groups here, and then serve that entirely on the home page. And of course, we can actually use those separate department pages, or it could be teams where people can actually do their day-to-day activity or like work, right? Now, we can also, let's say if the department decides to actually have their own news content, now you can actually aggregate all of those news content and then push that into the homepage directly, right? Lots of options there. We can definitely look at how we want to layer this. It's a very simple configuration, so we can definitely take advantage of that. And then the last one technically would be like the content management, right? First one is like content boost, similar to how we do. We are used to like, seeing this boosted content in Facebook and Instagram that actually pops up on top whenever you actually scroll your content. So similar to that, now you can make sure that if there's like a 401k enrollment deadline or anything that you think that needs to be on top, and then everybody should actually be able to see that upfront, you can do that and then also set an expiry date for that, right? We can also build some content approvals. So for example, when we're publishing news or creating documents, if somebody needs to moderate this, approve the content, that's possible. And then also if you want to schedule a publishing of that particular news article, let's say December 31st, midnight, 12 o'clock, you can actually go and then do that as well, right? And the last content piece, which is also one of the new additions, is actually that intelligent video. So video is becoming like one of your content types, similar to Word, Excel, PowerPoint. Now video is another content, and we can apply all the enterprise controls on top of this video. And then if you want, you can build an enterprise YouTube for your organization, or if you want to integrate that with your department or use that for leadership communications, anything is possible with videos. It's fully powered by the Azure cloud behind the scenes. It's completely streaming, and then it also renders based on the device that we are actually using. So, and we can definitely take advantage of that, right? And the last one is actually launch. The launch could be like a phased rollout, so which means we can actually publish Viva connections, maybe only for a handful, 10 to 50 people in the organization. And then we can get the quick feedback, and then over a period of time, we can do the slow launch across the entire organization. So there are some enterprise policies that's actually available to configure that. And then we can also provide training. These trainings could be classroom training, train the trainers, quick reference guides, videos, all of those could be like actually provided. And then they could be like trained even before we are actually launching. So they're good to go on day one, right? So we can actually pick and choose what's important for your organization, and then we can actually tailor this journey as well. Awesome. And also, as I said earlier, digital native design. So which means we don't have to do anything at all. As long as we actually design for Viva connections, it will automatically render on all of your devices, irrespective of whether it is like desktop, tablets, phone, iOS, Android, laptop, large screen monitors. It renders all by itself, and we don't have to do anything special. It's kind of a turnkey solution, and Viva Connections automatically takes care of that, right? And in fact, as you would have seen Kate's demo, when she actually showed the mobile version of it, it's not trying to fit in the entire website there. Instead, it actually focuses on dashboard, feed, and resources, right? So it understands what's actually important and then renders the content based on the device that you are in. And then you can customize that experience and then do the audience targeting. And when people are on road, you can actually specifically enable few things that's actually important for them and then do that audience targeting as well, right? So that's completely possible. So it's kind of out of the box digital native design, right? And the next slide. And this is like, if you're actually building a communication portal, Viva Connections journey, that the previous slide that we saw completely is applicable. However, like lots of 50% of our customers also would like to go ahead and then build what we call as this traditional intranet, and then doing this intranet modernization, and then bringing all of their files and then document management system into Teams and then Viva Connections. That's possible. We provide the best interface there. And then when we are actually doing that, we might have to think about a couple more things, which is what is highlighted on this slide, right? So of course, we want to do that information architecture we discussed earlier. And on the left-hand side, if you see, there is this tenant governance, security, and data protection. And again, this is something that you're already licensed for. So we kind of take advantage of those information protection policies and then DLP, data loss protection policies, to configure what we call as the sanity check. So before you bring in all of your files and folders into your cloud, we want to make sure that it's all protected so that no PA data is actually leaked. So you're covered from day one, right? And then if you also want to do some data migration, this is the right time. Do some housekeeping and then bring some of your content based on what's actually relevant. The more content that's actually sitting inside the Microsoft 365 platform, the more advantages from the security perspective and then also collaboration. You would see that all of this is like actually interconnected, and then you will see more benefits out of those content, right? And only after that, we would be talking, hey, do you want to enable Viva Connections? Or maybe I want to go with topics and learnings and insights. Definitely, yes, we can actually enable that. And then we will also talk about extranet strategy. Maybe you might have volunteers. Maybe you have like vendors and partners working with you. What is the safe way to actually share documents with them, right? It's like, can we actually build an extranet strategy just specifically for that? Some of our customers have actually gone ahead beyond document sharing. They've also built some invoice and procurement within the extranet, right? And the final one is actually the compliance and legal design. So if you have litigations that needs to be like taken care of, legal on holds, there are lots of options. Enterprise controls like e-discovery, information protection, retention policies, all of that could be like applied as well, right? So we'll talk about adoption and training strategy. Kate would actually cover that, and that's like super crucial for this. Right. Kate.
Awesome. Thank you, Logan.
Sure.
So Viva is that employee engagement aspect, and it really is all about, how do you get your employees to start utilizing this, to really get engaged and have excitement about, Viva in general, especially when it comes to Viva Connections. So we like to think of change leadership as a whole entire process, not just a, little bit of communications, a little bit of training. We want to go through the whole entire spiel to ensure that you have a rich adoption of this content. So the first thing we like to talk about is the change impact. So we'll go through and we want to know, who those stakeholders are, how they're being affected by the change, and really understand what is today and what we're going to tomorrow. And while in this process, we're going to be putting together different strategy aspects. So what are the things that your employees really resonate? Is it emails or is it videos? Are there quick start guides? Is there in-person trainings? What are those things that really ensure that you get engagement when it comes to your communications? And so we'll put together a different strategy for you. What is the life cycle of the program? When are we going to be reaching out to those employees, and how we're going to be reaching out to them? And then we want to make sure that all of this content, all of these communications are really resonating and having an impact. So we'll go through change readiness and metrics, identifying what those key milestones are, making sure that those individuals are ready for the change. And then in all of our years of dealing with change, what we've learned is that when you reach out to your employee base, they immediately go to their leaders and they say, what is going on? So we like to start with leaders first and do a top-down approach, letting leaders know, hey, this is what's happening. Here is your toolkit. Here is everything that you need for understanding. We'll even put together different road shows, different stakeholder engagements, whatever we might need in order to get the leaderships involved. And finally comes the best part, communications and engagement. This is the getting the excitement, doing short videos, quick start guides, really getting that impact through to them, making them want the change, know what's happening, and excited for the change. And so then we'll also want to make sure that we're doing that end user training. Viva Connections has a lot of SharePoint. So SharePoint owner training, SharePoint modernization training, different things that will help them understand what's happening, including the mobile aspect. How do we get it on the mobile? Do they have the Teams app already? How do they put the Teams app on? So all of those different trainings, whether it be in-person deliveries, recordings, webinars, whatever it might be, we want to have those available to you. And then the big part about Viva is that post-launch support. You can launch it, you can send all of this communication, but you have to keep that engagement going, keep that excitement going. So after the launch, sending those did you knows, here's things that you might not realize are available to you or things that you can do. And then maybe you're doing a phase 2 of it, from going to links to interactions with the third-party engagements. Having that insights, that support, and the engagement of gathering that excitement and keeping that momentum is really what that post-launch is all about. So all of this together really helps not only for you to get the system integrated, but also keeping the adoption and getting the bang for your buck and making sure that it's in that they have to have it, they love it spiel, and gathering that excitement for it. So what's the next steps in this? Well, first off, you now kind of know what Viva Connections is. So now it's time for kind of a introduction into specifically you. So we're going to have a follow-up form that is going to be put in the chat. And so we'd love for you to fill this out with any additional questions, anything that you might be interested in. And then if you want to talk to us, to Cyclotron, go ahead and either reach out to us or reach out to sales@cyclotron.com. We would love to set up, 30 minutes just to talk about the understanding of your needs and objectives, and then additional aspect to dig deep into what you have and what we can help you with and how the different Viva options can help you and be available to you. And as always, we have a pre-approved sales fundings for ESIFs. So we have a $30K for proof of concept for a Viva product for 5,000 seats, and then a $60K for 3 Viva products for up over 15,000 seats. So they're all available to you. They're already pre-approved. We do appreciate you coming to our engagement. If you have any questions, please feel free to go ahead and put them in the chat.